The Local Weirdos got together just through an appreciation of beverages, basically. So Charles and Matthew Stewart, two brothers, had a cafe in Bayswater called Howdy. So I used to go and get coffee with him and just shoot the shit for 3 hours on a Saturday morning, sitting at the bar there and drinking heaps of coffee and talking about stuff. Eventually, in 2019, we kind of jumped into it. I have been in wine for about 10 years, I suppose. I started, well, 12 years now, actually. I started working properly in 2010. Been working ever since. I've worked 3-4 different places in the Swan Valley, and I've worked in Canada and Germany as well.
Where we're standing right here, this is 8 acres of Swan Valley's finest. Sam and his dad kind of went around door to door looking out for vineyards like this one that looked like they had some potential but weren't seeing much love. Chatted to the people in the houses and left some letters under doors, and kind of eventually had Gino contact them and say, hey, maybe you can look after my vineyard. So we have this great deal with Gino where we take care of the vineyard and we get to keep the fruit. So Gino's an old bloke who lives at that house over there. His father lives over there and owns this entire block here. Gino, I think he likes to get out of the house and drive his tractor. He does all the tractor work. So about 2 years ago, we came through one afternoon and we were driving out, and we noticed half of this vine had broken and fallen down, and you can actually see where it's split down the middle here. And it had this big sort of open wound and was very clearly going to die off on this side. So we pulled, it's not really doing much work anymore, but we pulled one of these out of the back of the car and kind of strapped it all up and pulled it all together and did a little bit of vine surgery. So I'm proud to say that we saved that one.
When I started, 2010, that was kind of when the natural wine making movement in Australia was really at its birth, I suppose. There have been people doing it for quite a long time, but it hasn't really been a movement. And so I didn't really know anything about it, and gradually it kind of picked up. 2012, 2013, I started going to places and seeing these wines on the list that were completely different to what I'd experienced before. And at the time I didn't think much of them. I went to Sydney and I went to Mary's, the burger joint, like a year after it opened, and they'd always been big on natural wine, and I had this South African wine. And at that point I was kind of on the fence about it. I drank this wine and it had about 5 different faults, and I was like, fuck, this is just shocking. There was something about it. As much as I hated it, it kind of piqued my interest. And then I think in about 2014, I started drinking a little bit more, and I remember the first one that I had that really kind of stuck with me, that I remember the name of, was a Lucy Margot Pinot, single vineyard, and it was just incredible. And again, like nothing that I drank, but it felt alive. And that's what I love about natural wine. Can be faulty at times, but when you get a good one, there's nothing like it. There's a sense of purpose and a sense of vitality and a sense of character that I don't think you get from conventional wine. The environmental factor is a massive thing for me. This is going to sound cliched, but I've got a 8-year-old stepson and a 3-month-old daughter, and for me that's the biggest driver in doing what we're doing, because I want kids like them to be able to exist on this planet in a way that isn't diminished from where we are now. And part of that for me is changing the way that we do agriculture. Wine making and grape growing is energy intensive. It can be if it's conventional, chemical intensive, and it can be detrimental to the natural environment. One of our kind of founding notions is to try and change that paradigm in the Swan. Obviously, Paul Hoffman at Swan Valley Wines has been a leader in that in the Swan Valley. And we kind of want to follow what he's done and push beyond that and try and reincorporate elements of the natural environment that perhaps used to exist here before the vineyard was here, and get to the point where it's a bit more in balance.
What is my favourite part of this whole thing? I kind of just love it all. Being out here, sort of the middle of the year, where it's a bit cooler and there's not really anyone around, it's like meditation. You kind of get this groove going, and often you're doing it with one of the other guys. So we're all friends, and it's nice to spend time together and hang out with not a lot of other distractions. And you really get to air a lot of what's going on in your life and in your mind, and kind of a nice escape from the city. Releasing the wines and drinking them with people is cool. Wines and Wild had one of our wines on by the glass a few months ago, and Sammy lives just down the road as well, and Sammy, Maddie and I, we had a lot of other stuff on, and we had no real reason to go out for a drink, but we realized that they were pouring it by the glass, and it would feel like a shame not to go down. And it's kind of a bar where we've sat and drunk iconic wines from all over the world, and had really great memories. And to walk in there and order our own wine by the glass and sit down is pretty rad. That realization that we're making a product that people recognize as being of value and worthwhile, and it's probably up there.
Feels pretty amazing to now be managing a vineyard, less than a kilometre from where I grew up. I used to ride past this vineyard when I was a kid riding to school, but it kind of feels like a natural progression and a natural cycle to be back this close to where we were. And the idea hopefully is to expand and save a few more of these old vineyards around, because a lot of the older vineyards in this kind of area are getting pulled out, getting sold off, and there's a danger that we'll lose that resource and that history. And I really don't want that to happen. So it's kind of a multifaceted project, I suppose. We're trying to preserve the history that we have. We're trying to regenerate the patch that we've got environmentally as well, build on what Gino's done and what previous custodians of the land have done as well, going back tens of thousands of years.